이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가렸지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자.
Seoul Tower is also called Namsan Tower, and it sits in the very middle of the city of Seoul, South Korea. Also in the middle of the city is Gyeongbok Palace, seen here. When I visited Gyeongbok Palace, most of the other visitors were more interested in my American daughter than they were in the palace itself. Though I found this beautiful pond and the view of this mountain quite inspiring, especially given that we are still in the very middle of the city. When I arrived, it was pouring down rain, very much like this picture of the monsoon. And I had to get used to these floor toilets. About half of public toilets in Korea are not pedestals. South Korea is divided from North Korea and has been since 1953. This woman sits on a street corner in Gosong wearing a traditional Korean dress called hanbok. This is where I lived, in the U.S. Air Force housing on the air base. And this is what the spring blossoms look like there, on base as well as off base. I was very interested that this is what rest areas looked like in South Korea. This particular one was themed for ginseng land, and there are playgrounds and convenience stores. This is Jeju Straits, taken from Gosong in the spring of 2006. At the Gosong Expo, there were sculptures of traditional Koreans doing traditional tasks. Like these women making pots, and these women making kimchi. And there was this turtle boat on display. Admiral Yi is famous for defeating the Japanese Navy with his turtle boats. I visited the demilitarized zone and I got to see this Korean flag flying on the other side. This is called the Bridge of No Return because the other side is North Korea and people who defect don't come back. There are thousands of cranes that live inside the demilitarized zone. And this sculpture is on display at Panmunjom, showing the two sides of Korea trying to unite. I enjoyed how Koreans would garden in any find, like this one on the side of a house. And they would grow these little red peppers called gochus, and they would use them for kimchi making and other things. At any point on any street, you could find somebody selling food like this woman. Or you could go to a restaurant where this was displayed. It's called horangi, Korean for tiger. Another display at the same restaurant is this classic example of Hangul, which is the Korean script. And a much larger garden growing between the railroad tracks and the freeway wall. Koreans enjoy a sushi-like dish called kimbap. It's rice and seaweed and fillings rolled up and cut into slices. I love this picture of Seoul Grand Station. It reminds me a lot of Russia. And I had to drive past the rice paddies every day from work to home, and this is how they looked in the spring. This wicker dragon stands about 3 stories tall and sits in an intersection called Samgakji, which just means three-angle place. Not far from there is a Korean War memorial. This is just a small part of it, but it shows homage to all of the warriors. This was my typical lunch at Yonsei University. This happens to be chicken katsu in a variety of sides. And this is a picture of the rice in the fall. If you look closely, you can see the grains. We very much enjoyed our visit to Sodaemun, or the West Gate. There's tons of shopping and history there. And also while I was at Yonsei University, I got to enjoy the fall leaves in the courtyard. And I was amused that Koreans don't use umbrella buckets. They leave them out in the hall like this to dry. And I enjoyed the snow in Korean winters, despite bitter cold temperatures. This fence made of kimchi pots is very north in South Korea, near the border with North Korea. If we wanted, we could go to McDonald's, but I never actually did in 2 whole years there. Again, the border with North Korea is heavily guarded, as you can see by the wires. And this is what the subway station looked like on the inside.
이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가렸지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자